Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, practice number 15 this weekend at high noon in the LBK. And also another visit, another commitment, line them up, knock them down for Grant McCaslin and Red Raider Hoops. We get to it next on Locked On Texas Tech.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're going to start this thing off right. Raider! Everything runs through Lubbock.
Thanks for joining us again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making us also your first listen every day on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. He's the only Chris Level. I'm Casey Cowan. Great to be wrapping up a week with you, Chris, where we've got, well, one version of football on the other side. Spring game is upon us. Red-black game is upon us from Lowry Field here in the LBK. That's happening tomorrow at high noon, and we've got a few things to be on the lookout for. I want to get to some comments from head coach Joey McGuire on their approach to how they'll line things up, ones versus ones, twos versus two, good on good, or otherwise. But you do get a chance to get out there, and not quite in a game setting, but maybe a little bit closer than what you've had through the spring camp grind. And we hope there'll be some butts in seats. So playing in front of folks wearing red and black always adds a little bit extra to the affair, I would imagine. Let's go ahead and kick it off here, Chris, with a thought from Coach McGuire outlining how they'll go about scoring this son of a gun, because it can kind of feel like whose line is it anyway? The rules are made up. The points don't matter. Who's on what side? Coach McGuire does his best to give you an idea of the structure of tomorrow's red-black game. Here's Coach McGuire.
So the first half is going to be running clock minus the last 2 minutes. We'll play like a regular game. And then the plan in the third quarter is to go red zone lockout. So put the ball at the 20 and play to 18. That's what we do. We just got through doing it. It's real competitive. And then then take it like, that'd be like the third quarter. And then the fourth quarter, get a lot of the young guys in, have a running clock, and get all the threes and fours in.
Based on the way he describes it, this isn't going to take very long. I hear lots of running clock.
Right.
Yeah, and these are, we've touched on this subject some, but these are more spring celebrations or whatever than they are like games, because you're right. I mean, depending on – and I think Texas Tech's situation is different than in most years in that there's just a lot of guys that are going to miss here. And I think you have a lot of older players on your roster that, even if they're going to participate, look, you kind of know what they can do, what they are. They've been around the program for many years and don't know if you want to put them in harm's way in a setting like this. There's – we talked about this, I think about 2 weeks ago. I think last year, Mike Gundy and Chris Kleiman, they canceled theirs because not enough healthy players were healthy linemen. And so, but again, the Red Raiders are going to put their best foot forward and all those things. But it's just not this is in no way like a real game. And you're right, man. I mean, excuse me, I apologize. Me and John Harris are going to be up there in the old press box trying to figure out said scoring system. Yeah, good luck. So it's kind of like, let's kind of get the defense caught up here, or that's just always the way it goes. So this thing will end up being close into a tie. We were trying to come up with a. Oh,
Chris,
go ahead.
Are you on a TV call or are you doing radio call?
No,
call.
John and I will be doing ESPN Plus. Yes.
Okay, so broadcast on ESPN Plus. We had some asking about maybe where they could see it. Yeah, you may just go full Bob Uecker, get you a bottle of hooch and strip down to the wife beater shirt and.
Marty's the best color man in the business.
That's exactly. Hey, it's a spring celebration, my friend. It's a spring celebration. Right. Yeah, I wish you luck in trying to convey to the audience what the hell's actually going on.
And it doesn't, nobody remembers the result. I mean, it gets written about. It's not the point. I mean, if we're being honest, the top of the list is to ensure that when you get out of there, tomorrow afternoon, that nobody was dinged up or injured. That's first and foremost. I don't care how productive it was or wasn't. You just don't want to get anybody dinged up in that kind of setting. So that's why certain guys that will see very limited time, and certain guys won't play at all. But it does serve a purpose for some of the younger guys, and it gets them in front of fans. And how do they respond under some bigger conditions compared to the spring practice situations that they've had to this point? But anyway, they serve a purpose. I just and also you also have to throw out this caveat: be careful about making some big picture impression off of anything you see tomorrow.
Yes.
Quarterback or skill player or somebody that ends up with 4 sacks or whatever it may be.
Right.
It's one of 15 practices.
Well, Kristen, like the OC or the quarterback's coach, like in these touch settings, the QB coach is like, no, the play was still alive. The defensive line coach is like, play's dead. That's a sack. That's a sack. He got it. So there's like some courtroom debate over some of these statistics, I guess, that plays out.
Tommy McVeigh used to be the most unpopular guy in the building when spring games or scrimmages were, because he was the backfield whistle guy, and he got to determine that's a sack or that wouldn't have been a sack, and everybody was always mad at him, because you never play it out live. You always stop it before there's any contact. But he said, R.I.P. man, he was a good one. But
pouring one out for Tom.
Absolutely. But yeah, the whoever's got that whistle in the backfield, man, they are an unpopular dude, man, because you're telling somebody no. I mean, it doesn't matter. Right. It's like no means no, man. No. You didn't get there, or the play. You would have gotten down. I mean, whatever the case. Yeah. But those are there's some. It's all subjective, I guess, the way it'll be statted.
Yeah, and I got so caught up, man, this week in the crane climb challenge. I mean, I don't know what I was thinking. I was like sitting here thinking yesterday, like, right after the game's over, maybe Joe McGuire will just go right up that crane. Meanwhile,
Field.
You're playing at a different stadium entirely, so we're gonna have to march over after the game to Jones Stadium, I guess. I'd love to just make it a tradition, Chris, and we had some great comments on YouTube, great feedback about our crane climb challenge conversation. And most, I felt like, came around to my side. As a matter of fact, I think there was one commenter early on that was like, no way, I'm with Mrs. McGuire. Like, he was commenting in the live chat possibly when the show was premiering. And then I swear I come back to check the comments later on in the day. Same son of a gun came back around and said, no, Casey got me too jacked up for this crane climb. So now I'd actually like to see it happen. I'd like to just see a yearly tradition where we never know what he's going to climb. But what if Coach McGuire just always surprised us by climbing something around town? Like, oh, he's on the water tower. Oh, he's on the world's largest replica windmill over in Littlefield, Texas. Shout out to the XIT. Oh, he's on the crane. I think he's on the new bell tower. I think that could be a cool, surprising tradition, kind of like Roof Raider, but now it's your head coach.
Where's Joey? Yeah, like where's Waldo? That's right. Give him a red and white striped shirt. Yeah. I here's the thing. I just am terrified of heights. I mean, I can watch somebody be really high up, and it makes me want to kind of, it gets me queasy.
Yeah, your palms sweating a little bit.
I was somewhere this past summer out of the country, and I watched a high diver from, I think, like 12 stories up, and I watched this dude like almost the point where I barely could see him, and then he came down and he had the tiny little towel, they do, and there was the water spout out there kind of just showing, okay, this is where you're going to land, man. And I was uncomfortable about the whole dang thing. I mean,
why will the diving community not give their athletes proper size towels is maybe a question for another day.
And it's like that little squeegee, like a kangaroo claw thing. It's not even like a real towel, but it's like the size of Mike Leach's old play sheet,
Yeah, I'm learning something new, man. You never know what you're going to learn if you dial up Locked On Texas Tech. Kangaroo cloth? Yeah.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Okay, pencil that one and file it away for later conversation. Chris, as we stick with the spring game here, everybody's got their own ideas about, how to approach actual competition on the field. I want to get to with you in just a moment some spots to keep an eye on where maybe there's real positional competition going on, not offense versus defense, but tackle versus tackle. guard, whatever that might be, running back versus running back. We'll get to some of those battles playing out on the same side of the ball. But, everybody's got, I guess, their strategy whenever it comes to how you're going to set up competition between different sides of the ball. And it was also something that Joey McGuire seemed to emphasize and repeat, is that he wants good on good, 1v1s. Here is, on that subject, head coach Joey McGuire. But first, today's episode brought to you by Built Bar. Something exciting just around the corner, April 22nd at built.com. That's April 22nd at built.com. I can't spill the bucket on all the details just yet, but if you're familiar with how Built works, they've got the best protein bars in the world, and ever so often will hit you with an incredible flavor drop. Unreal flavor in limited quantity. So you want to be ready when it's happening. Mark your calendars and head to built.com on Saturday, April 22nd. That's built.com on Saturday, April 22nd, to be the first one to discover what the hype is about. I can't wait to find out what the new flavor is. Can it top the all-time flavor GOAT? Churro! We'll find out. Use the promo code at built.com, LOCKEDON15. That's LOCKEDON15 at built.com to get 15% off your order while you're there at built.com. And thank me later after you've tried your first Built Bar. He wants good on good, 1v1s. Here is, on that subject, head coach Joey McGuire.
I don't believe in the 1-on-2s. We're going to go good on good. So one side, I have the first offense. Just like all spring, both quarterbacks will be with that group, and both quarterbacks will be with their twos. So ones on ones, and then twos on twos. I mean, we still want to. We treat this as a practice, so we still want to get something out of it. And I see guys go ones versus twos, and I don't know if that's trying to make you feel better or what, but we want to feel better by getting after each other, and whichever group of our guys are the best, and that's who's going to win it.
There's no wrong way to do this. I think you do want to get – it is one of 15 allowable practices, and I think everybody's got a different idea or format. I mean, I've seen everything from, let's draft teams. Let's literally do offense versus defense. Let's come up with this tricked-up scoring system to give the defense. Yeah. Let's do, like we'll keep the same quarterback on both teams. I mean, there's all kinds of ways.
All-time quarterback.
Yeah, basically. Okay. Yeah,
like Dad would do in the yard.
Absolutely, ATQ, man. ATQ. Hey, running out route. As long as the hot read, man, we're good. All right, ready, break. Crab cakes and football. Thought
he was going to zig and he can button hook me.
Look at your brother. He's down again. What is wrong with him? So, but this is how, and I would guess if that is true, the one versus one component, you always hear the term, you had a cup of coffee in the league, you had a cup of coffee with this team or whatever it may be. That's how long these ones will be in the game. As long as it takes everybody to kind of drink a normal kind of cup of coffee, and then, and nobody's going to come over there and go, hey, let me warm that up for you. No, they're going to come out of the game at that point.
No refills.
Yeah, that's right. So I would guess 2 to 3 series max, man, on some of your first team guys. Some guys maybe not even being there as long as that. Now, what happens is the older guys are like, man, coach, I just got lathered up, man, and they talk their way in. Let me go out for one more series, whatever it may be. So we'll see kind of how much leeway that everybody's got there, but you won't see the top guys for very long, I wouldn't think. And if you do, again, keep in mind the clock is running, as we heard Coach McGuire say a while ago. So
they've already started it. It's running right now, as a matter of fact. They're just trying to get this thing going.
That's right.
Chris, I'm curious, before we move on from this, we're going to get to another commitment for Grant McCaslin and the Texas Tech men's basketball program before we're out of here. But first, I wanted to ask you really quickly about competition playing out, positionally speaking. I just feel like off the cuff, my thoughts are secondary offensive line, 2 spots. Pardon me. What'd you do to me? What'd you send?
I'm telling you, man. I've been trying to fight a cough like all morning, and I finally let it out, I think, without hitting mute on my level.
Right. And it's there. April 21st. Oops. Just coincidentally. I don't know what Chris was doing yesterday. I know what I was doing yesterday. I got to quit rolling my own. Chris, offensive line, secondary. I don't know if it's like, hey, there's a real hot competition for one position, but maybe more rotationally speaking, like you've talked about with the offensive line as an example.
Yeah.
Like who's number 7, who's number 8. So where are you focusing in, if those places or otherwise?
I think that's a great, the Jacoby Jacksons, the Ty Buchanans, Sheridan Wilson, the Caden Carrs, the Daniel Sills. I mean, some of those second level or third team level offensive linemen. I think that's and again, look, do you show up to Lowry Field and like, I can't wait to watch the backup offensive lineman. Hip, hip, hooray. I mean,
yes, I do.
That's
You're stepping on some toes here.
Yeah.
Yes, I do that.
That is for people that are really clued in and paying attention. I think that if you're looking for reasons to kind of, hey, let me see something that would affect this year's team, or that maybe a lot of people wouldn't be thinking of, that would be one. The other group, I think you mentioned the secondary, is that Jordan Sanford, Nate Floyd, Mo Horn, Chapman Lewis, some of those secondary pieces that are either newcomers or are redshirt freshmen or whatever, kind of in that 1 or 2 year range, that because I'm guessing Rashad Williams won't participate here again. I'll be very surprised if Malik Dunlap does more than than drink a cup of coffee. So you're going to see some of those backup pieces in there, and those depth pieces are going to be huge. I mean, I think the Joseph Plunk back there at safety, we'll see kind of what we get, but I mean, I think those are 1 and 1A. The other one here, this is a curveball here a bit, is I think you want to watch Gino Garcia with any kind of kicking situation. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a name that a lot of people may not know about. He came here from Houston Baptist. I think, how well does he kick? And then the other one is running back. Because I think it points in the spring. Look, you already know what Taj Brooks can do. Okay. If you don't, then nobody's been paying attention. But, you have Cameron Valdez, Bryson Donnell, Anquan Willis, I think is his name. All three of those guys have missed practices or missed a portion of the spring at one time or another just because they've been kind of dinged up. So are all three available, or all three kind of held out? I mean, so who does make the, because I think Blake Bedwell, I think last year was, the somebody that took a bulk of the carries last year's spring game. And he was a walk-on from SMU that Kenny Perry was very familiar with. And then, so again, I just mentioned all that to say, like, you're just not sure what you're going to get here. This is not necessarily put our best foot forward, guns a-blazing, let's roll. This is spring game celebration. That's what it is.
Also think about the linebackers because of some of what you're having to replace from a season ago. Like, hey, we need some shoes filled. And one of the, I guess, groups we really haven't spent hardly any time at all discussing within spring camp. We talked about it, in some weeks prior because of a transfer possibility with Dre McCray, but that's the group of wide receivers. And, last season, a group that was not as consistent as you would like, and it probably just ties into the offense at large, but there are some hitters in there when it's guys like Bradley. I hope McCray as well. Even guys like Nehemiah Martinez, I'm excited to see some of those back in 2023. But we haven't spent a whole lot of time really looking specifically at that group. So I'm curious to look there as well coming up tomorrow to kind of see, again, just rotationally speaking, maybe who's getting looks, who's getting some reps.
Yeah, and you mentioned Nehemiah Martinez, he could see some time in the backfield. I think that they've experimented with that plenty this spring. That's been talked about, just trying to get him on the field more. And then I think because of necessity, but yeah, receivers, Jerron Bradley, again, may not play much in this deal, but Dre McCray, certainly somebody that I would pay attention to if you're out there and watching where's number 10 or has been. Sometimes they switch up the numbers right before the spring game and like, yeah, so he wanted to wear this for this day. And you're like, okay, I don't even know who this is. But Miles Price, Lubbock, on and on. I think Coy Aiken and Brady Boyd have missed some time in the spring. I don't know if they'll participate or not. I guess we'll see. And I think that's kind of, those are the type guys that I think that the spring game is about. You want to see those younger guys because I think they really have a chance to kind of step in and make some noise. So anyway, we'll just kind of see what we get. But I think that's another position group that I think is fascinating because you didn't lose a lot from it. JJ Sparkman is still back. Trey Cleveland did depart and is going to go to North Texas. But other than that, everything came back intact. And Dre McCray basically kind of takes the place of Trey Cleveland. And, you've got Miles and you've got, Nehemiah Martinez. Xavier White hasn't really done anything yet this spring. I think they've held him out. So, again, this is a mismatch of kind of pieces here that we're going into tomorrow with at the skill positions. But again, we'll kind of see what we get. But that's why you just not too many big picture, opinions should be made off of what you see tomorrow.
Well, and it is the type of affair like you just did to me right there, where you see a guy and you're thinking, Xavier White, what is he, like 35 now? He's still around? Hell yeah. Glad to have him back. But you kind of get a reminder as you get familiar with the next roster who may be hanging around. I think Xavier is a super senior, so we're getting closer to the COVID eligibility timeline kind of running out, but still in it to a degree with some. So looking forward to what's going down this weekend in the LBK and looking forward to chopping it all up with you coming up on the other side of the weekend. We'll be back around on Monday to do our best to fight off big picture conclusions, but I don't know. I know me as a fan, Chris, and I just might have a big picture takeaway or two that I'm going to overstate and overemphasize the rest of the offseason. But that's my right as a Red Raider.
It is.
Before we're out of here, coming up next, of course, we're sticking with Texas Tech, but we're pivoting to hoops as Grant McCasland has got another to sign up. We'll get to it on the other side on Locked On Texas Tech. Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, coming at you from west of the 100th Meridian, where it's really going down. A beautiful day in the great state, beautiful day in the LBK, and hopefully a beautiful weekend for spring football coming up on the other side. Red-black game happening from Lowry Field, 12 o'clock Saturday afternoon. We're setting that to the side for now as we turn our attention to Texas Tech hoops, but also wanted to let you in on this. Locked On's NFL mock draft special has arrived, bigger than ever. You can follow along with all 32 teams' first pick in a 6-episode ultimate mock draft experience. Only Locked On can deliver. All episodes available right now on Locked On NFL Draft. That's on YouTube, of course, or wherever you get podcasts. So check it out. Chris, check this out. More good news for Grant McCasland and the Red Raiders, this time in the form of Chance McMillian, former Grand Canyon University hoopster, and now going to be a Red Raider. We just, 2 days ago, we're discussing Darian Williams, the Nevada transfer that has chosen Texas Tech Mountain West Conference Freshman of the Year, and just kind of trying to, again, read between the lines and seeing who is pursuing Mr. McMillian, though I was not familiar with him prior to this. Seems like this is a get you got to be happy about if you're a Tech fan, because you had some competition for this guy.
Yeah, I think visits to Colorado and Utah, I think I'm right there as far as Chance McMillian. I think and I think he's here's the from the basketball component. Look, really good shooter, 40% career three-point shooter, 44% last year. I think he's got deep range. If you go watch, him play a bit, he can really step way behind the arc and hit them. And, his turnover to assist ratio, not near as good as Darian Williams. But I think this is just like a good combo guard for you. And he's 6'3", and he kind of, he's going to be classified as, I think he's a sophomore with still maybe listed as a junior, but he's got multiple years left to play, I should say. And I can't ever figure out the COVID year and all that crap. It's like it makes me, just my head want to explode because I'm like, I don't know how many years you got to play. But he plays the same position, kind of like Kerwin Walton and DeMarion Williams and Lamar Washington. So you're kind of, not that they all can't, play that position here, but it makes that a bit more crowded because theoretically, you can make the argument that in the last week, I don't know what will ultimately happen here, but you could say, and I think be close to on track with it, that you've gotten the starters at the 1, the 2, and the 3 position over the last, like I said, week plus with Pop, with Darian and Chance now at the 1, 2, and the 3. So, but that doesn't mean that's how it work out. But I mean, you could just start to see that they filled in starting to fill in some of the pieces there. I do think you could use somebody else with point guard skills. I think you definitely need some size on the wing and in the post, and you need some scoring. So it's my understanding that nobody at this point was set to visit this weekend here. So because that's one thing about this staff is they got both of these kids to visit and they've landed both of them. So they've gotten 2 of the guys that they wanted. I think there's been some recent contact with a young man that plays for UTEP. I think that, again, a lot of still like, hey, so-and-so has heard from Texas Tech being amongst the list of schools is still very much going on.
Right.
And I think Coach McCaslin's process of hiring a staff is still ongoing very much as well. So with really not much end in sight or no deadline or timetable placed on it. So, but I think you do have a couple of answers here now with Darian Williams and Chance McMillian, at least as far as additions. And I will say this too about Batcho. I do think there is a pretty good chance that he stays. I think there's some discussion about a BYU visit. But I think, NIL may factor in there with him. I'm not sure, but I do think there is, he wants to stay. It's kind of what you hear from the folks that he's closest to. But again, nothing is set there yet at all. But he would be a really welcomed back addition if you could.
Oh my gosh,
get him back out of the portal and on your roster.
Yeah, no question. And the NIL for him, I mean, is a little muddled, right? Because as a foreign player, I think there's some restrictions of some kind that others don't have to deal with.
Now, hold on. Say it again. As
the NIL is like a little. There's some more. I don't know, just a little more complicated, I guess. I thought there was at one point where like you had to be out of the country to generate funds from NIL if you were a foreign-born player. Like when you went to the Battle for Atlantis or whatever, you could do like appearances and make money because all the Bahamian children, of course, want a picture with you.
Yeah.
But there's I probably shouldn't even brought it up because I don't know all the details, but I thought it was a little more difficult for like Canadian-born, French-born, whatever it might be, to get those in place. Not that they can't, but that's an interesting component of Daniel Batcho's experience. And yeah, with McMillian, man, excited to have him pairing up there with Pop on the perimeter because pretty good shooter from beyond the arc. I think maybe 43, 44%, something like that's what I saw. Put up 16 against Gonzaga in the tourney. So the most recent memory is a good one for Chance McMillian. But do you really think that Isaac's at the 1 can be successful? Because he has great vision. There's no question about it. Is he willing to be more of a distributor? And do you want to turn Pop Isaacs into a distributor? Because you certainly don't want to sacrifice the scoring aspect of it. I was curious about that when you mentioned, I don't know if you meant that literally, but 1, 2, and 3.
I mean, I think he right now he's set to play the point guard spot, that 1 position or whatever. And I think until we see something different, I do think you want to utilize him as a distributor and kind of grow him into something that where he is he's got the ball in his hands a lot more. And again, he's a high level passer. I mean, he sees things before they're going to happen. Very high IQ. I do think though that if you're going to be asked to do that, he's going to have to be very cognizant of not trying to hit the home run and thread the needle on certain passes and just limit turnovers. But I do think that, they still can get some scoring from him and all those things. But I think, again, right now, I mean, that's your kind of your main option. I mean, Lamar Washington, if he is indeed back, and I just say I have a question mark there because I think there's some gray area based on what we talked about on the show yesterday. It just kind of comes out of nowhere. Hey, he's going to enter into the portal. And then he says, I am not in the portal. Both of those statements could be true. But it doesn't mean that he's back here. That's the thing. But he can certainly play the point and do some things as well if he's back. And I think he's somebody that he's a perfect kind of complement to a guy like Pop, because he's not going to be somebody that is hunting his own shot. He's a big body. He can, I think that Coach McCaslin has said to people about Lamar, he'll be in my top 7 or 8 players for as long as he's here, and that's a compliment because it's like, that means he's in the rotation for as long as he's here. He's just a good, solid player. Don't know if you're ever going to ask him to score 25 a game for you. That's not likely in his skill set. He's not or wasn't, the best perimeter shooter, but as far as toughness and defense, taking charges, getting to the free throw line, not turning it over. I mean, he would check a lot of boxes for you if you could get him for sure back in the fold. And I have no reason to necessarily think that he's not going to be in the fold, but we're telling everybody false news. I'm not in the portal because there was a report out that says I was. So, anyway, that just keep an eye on that one. But
and Chris, can you shed any light? And I know we're running long, but can you shed any light on like some of the trackers you see out there? Because his name was actually on a portal tracker list at one point yesterday. That's people reporting on those players being reported on. It's not like the official. There is no official that I know of that a fan can just monitor, like NCAA portal tracker. Is there? Because that was weird yesterday.
Yeah, there are sites that follow it, but nobody is supposed to have access to the actual NCAA portal, which is at first they had a site and the password kind of type stuff kind of gets leaked out, and so there was some media folks that you could kind of just follow it, and for whatever reason they wanted to keep that quiet. Or quieter, and so they kind of did some different things to it and really kind of made sure nobody, for the most part, had access to it. Gotcha. We would not be able to see that, and it updates every day. Football, basketball, really every sport.
Yeah. So caution yourself on whatever you may see that is someone else basically making an entry into a database of their own creation based off of reporting on individual players here or there. Maybe accurate, maybe not. I don't know. I don't follow it that closely on that front, but certainly not to be taken as gospel, as you had kind of a weird timeline yesterday with Lamar Washington and some of those lists. All right, Chris, enjoyed it all week long, my man, and looking forward to the spring game and taking in your call. Even if I'm there in person, I'm going to be recording that because I cannot get enough of the dulcet tones of you and the great finally coiffed John Harris. So looking forward to that, and we'll discuss it on Monday. Enjoy it, man. Have a great weekend.
Looking forward to it. We'll talk to you after it's all over with. Hopefully no injuries, no wind, and we'll celebrate together, man. But keep hope alive. Have a good weekend.
Hopefully a Red Raider win is what we're discussing on the next edition of Locked On Texas Tech. Make it your first listen on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts, and we'll see you for the next one. Hope you all out there enjoy the red-black game. Have a great weekend wherever you may be. Thanks for joining us. For Chris, I'm Casey. We'll see you next time on Locked On Texas Tech.